Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. So I am very excited for today's video because this is something I have wanted to talk about ever since I started my channel like 2 years ago. I don't know, maybe it was 3, I don't even know, but I've wanted to do this for a very long time. But today's video is going to be all about where you should buy your rabbit, and we are going to be discussing breeders versus adoption and all of that kind of stuff. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get on to the video. I feel like I tend to have more like all-inclusive opinions. That doesn't really make sense, but basically like I support outdoor rabbit housing, I also support indoor rabbit housing, I do support some breeding, and I also do support adoption. So we're gonna go ahead and discuss kind of all of that stuff so you can better understand that. And if you think differently than I do, that's okay. You can leave the video, you can do whatever you want, you can leave a comment with your opinions, that's totally okay. This is just kind of how I feel about breeding and adoption and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, let's go ahead and get on with the video. Alright, so the very first thing we are going to talk about is breeders. So there are two types of breeders in my opinion. There are ethical breeders and there are unethical breeders. Here is kind of the difference. So an ethical breeder is someone who doesn't mass breed, so doesn't have just like hundreds of rabbits that they're constantly breeding. They more focus on having fewer rabbits and care about the rabbits' well-being. They do not breed for the money, because if you are being an ethical breeder, then you're most likely not really going to make money off of it, because if you're a rabbit owner, you would know that rabbits are pretty expensive pets to take care of. Breeding would be very expensive because you're having several rabbits. And that's a lot of expense if you are properly caring for them. So an ethical breeder is not going to be in it for the money. They also will properly care for the rabbits. So some examples of how you can tell this is they're not going to have the rabbits in a tiny wire-bottomed cage. They are going to make sure the rabbits have plenty of hay and water at all times. They're going to make sure they are feeding them a proper diet of veggies and a limited amount of pellets. They will properly educate their buyers about rabbit care, and they're not just going to sell to anyone who wants to buy a rabbit. They're going to make sure the people have the proper experience and know what they're doing and are going to take good care of the rabbit, so they're not just going to sell to anyone who wants to buy a rabbit. And most of the time, this doesn't go for all breeders, but for a lot of good breeders, they will take back the rabbits. If for some reason the person can no longer take care of the rabbit, they will take them back and either keep them for themselves or rehome them. Another thing that I had forgotten to list is that they will make sure the rabbits are old enough to be sold, so they're not going to sell them before they should be taken away from their mother, because that's something a lot of unethical breeders will do. So unethical breeders, on the other hand, will mass breed rabbits and not care about the rabbits' well-being, so they're just going to keep breeding rabbits as fast as they possibly can to make money, because an unethical breeder is going to be in it for the money. They don't care as much about taking proper care of their rabbits, they just want to make money. And since rabbits have such a short gestation period, they see them as a really easy way to just make some quick money, because it takes a rabbit a month from the time they get pregnant to the time they have the babies. So a lot of people will see it as just an easy way to make some quick money, but they're really not taking proper care of the rabbits, and they don't care about the rabbits very much. They don't care about where the rabbits go to. They're not going to take the steps to make sure the rabbit goes to a good home that an ethical breeder would. They're just going to sell to anyone, and they don't usually take very good care of their rabbits either. They're going to keep them in tiny wire-bottomed cages a lot of the time. They don't keep them clean. They don't feed them a proper diet, and they're just not good rabbit owners. They really shouldn't have rabbits at all. So the next thing we're going to talk about is pet stores. So a lot of people buy the rabbits from pet stores and don't see what's wrong with it. And here's the thing about it. At the pet store, it may look like they only have a few rabbits and they're taking really good care of them and they get a lot of attention and whatever. But the reality is those rabbits come from rabbit mills. And if you guys know what a puppy mill is, a rabbit mill is basically the same thing but rabbits. And they mass breed tons and tons and tons of rabbits and keep them in absolutely horrible conditions. When the rabbits are being transported to the pet stores, often a lot of them will die during the transportation. Sometimes rabbits will even die in the pet store, and you will see literally a dead rabbit in the cage at the pet store. They're just kept in horrible conditions. A lot of times the rabbits aren't healthy, and sometimes they die shortly after people buy them, and they wonder, why did my bunny just die? It's because they came from a really bad place. Pet stores are most of the time not a good place to buy from. Now, I do think there are some pet stores here and there that actually will take rabbits from rescues and actually adopt them out, and that's totally fine. You can totally do that. I would highly recommend adopting a rabbit for sure, but most of the time that's not the case, and they do come from a rabbit mill. I'm going to leave a link in the description to an article that talks about this a little more. If you don't believe me, you can also just go do some research of your own on this topic, because there are quite a few articles about this on the internet. Okay, now we are going to talk about adoption. Now, this is a very popular option for people who want to get a rabbit. It's a very popular saying to adopt, don't shop. And I definitely support adoption fully. Now, here's the thing. Not everyone meets the requirements for adoption. I do think the requirements are really strict and maybe overly strict. I do support outdoor rabbit housing, and most of the time rescues will not adopt out a rabbit if it's going to be housed outdoors. So for that reason, a lot of people like myself can't actually adopt a rabbit because we're not able to house our rabbits indoors. I do think adoption is a really great way to go if you are able to meet the requirements. For sure, you should go for it, but for some people they can't adopt even if they want to, because maybe they have to house their rabbit outdoors and that's not allowed. Maybe they don't have a rabbit rescue near them, which is in my case. I think the nearest rabbit rescue is like 4 hours away, and that is just ridiculous. Also, sometimes there just isn't the right rabbit for you at your rescue. Sometimes the rescue near you doesn't have any rabbits at the moment. So there's a lot of different situations where adoption just doesn't work out for some people. And so that is why I'm going to go on to our next option, which is Craigslist. Now, the thing about Craigslist is you have to be really careful because there are a lot of unethical backyard breeders on Craigslist that use this as their main way to sell rabbits. That being said, there are also some people who have totally good intentions. Even ethical breeders might be on Craigslist, and there are a lot of people on there that are just trying to rehome their rabbit. Now, a few ways to kind of tell the difference between a good seller on Craigslist and a bad seller is, one, if it's an indoor rabbit, then there's a good chance it's just someone trying to rehome their rabbit. Also, always an easy way to tell is if they have a description of the rabbit and they just say, we're trying to rehome it. That's a pretty good way to tell. If they say they're moving or whatever and need to rehome it, that's a good way to tell. If the rabbit is spayed or neutered, it's most likely just someone's pet that they need to rehome, because breeders don't usually spay and neuter their rabbits because they're breeding them. Also, if you are trying to figure out if they are an ethical breeder or an unethical breeder to decide if you want to buy from them, you can always contact them with questions and ask, like, how many rabbits do you have? What requirements do you have for someone that wants to buy a rabbit? Things like that. Another really easy way to tell right off the bat is by their pictures. If the rabbit is shown, or the rabbits are shown outdoors in a little wire-bottomed cage that looks really dingy and dirty, then probably not someone you want to buy from. So one thing I want to point out is some people, I even used to think this myself, some people think that buying from an unethical breeder or a pet store or whatever bad situation the rabbit is in is rescuing the rabbit. And in a way, yes, it is rescuing that single rabbit. That rabbit is going to have a better life because of you. So yes, but you have to look at the big picture of it and realize that by buying that rabbit, you are supporting that person. So you are giving them money to continue doing what they're doing and to continue breeding rabbits into those horrible conditions, and it's just not a good idea. And although it may be sad that you can't rescue all those bunnies, it really helps to just not support them, because eventually if enough people stop buying from them, they will go out of business. They won't be able to continue doing what they're doing. So I think that's all for today's video. If you guys have any questions at all, be sure to let me know in the comments below and I will be happy to answer anything. I hope this made sense. I know there was a lot of information crammed into this one little 10-minute video, but I hope you guys found it helpful. If you did, be sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe and turn on your notification bell so you don't miss more videos from us. This video is a part of our rabbit care series. If you want to check out more videos in the rabbit care series, just go to my rabbit care series playlist under the playlist section on my channel. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I will see you very soon. Bye!